Okay, good. All right, let's see. Gilgamesh, Genesis, yeah. So it's Gilgamesh from Genesis. Shouldn't be too hard for you guys. Okay. Now, in addition to recording, I'm going to share the screen with computer sound. I think we'll do the history of writing next time when we don't have so much Genesis to get through. We'll do this then too. Okay, we already did that. Huh. All right, so, oh, I know. I forgot something very important. I'm using this like a blackboard. All right, so what happened at sundown on October 22nd, 4004 BC? Anybody know? Just speak up if you do. Okay, so on October 22nd, 4004 BC, at sundown, God created the heavens and the earth and all of the universe. And this is according to one Bishop Usher, who was able, through math and divine guidance, to calculate the dates based on stuff in the Bible. Let's see if we have a picture. Church of Ireland, Archbishop of Armagh, Primate of all Ireland, 1625. So, were any of you taught in high school that the Earth is 6,000 years old? And the entire universe is in fact 6,000 years old. It's called the young Earth theory. When I was your age, they called it scientific creationism, which sounds great, right? The problem with that term it was declared unconstitutional to teach that to school children, especially in public schools, I guess, because of the separation of church and state. So they changed the term to intelligent design and plowed right on as though nothing had happened. And by that time, the Supreme Court was not as, had changed hands, and they were more interested to wedge religion into the classroom than the earlier ones had been, who understood what the First Amendment actually means. So in this theory, the universe is only 6,000 years old. And it's there because of the Bible. There's no scientific reason that anybody could come up with to think that the whole universe has only been here for 6,000 years. It just does not make sense. Imagine that, I wonder if I can draw things on here. Shape, there we go. I need a circle. Okay, so this is a shell around the Earth, a sphere that's 6,000 light years in radius. So from the center to the edge is 6,000 light years. So that's a very, very small chunk of a very huge universe. Any light coming from within this sphere came from the thing that, is shining in the night sky. But what if the light is coming from a billion light years away over here in the corner? How did that get here in a 6,000-year-old universe? Anybody got a guess?
It couldn't have.
Right. It was created en route. So if it's a supernova out here, then the supernova never actually existed. The supernova was just some, a fiction. God created the light for it here. And all those billions and billions of years ago, nothing happened because there was nothing. So this is the kind of nonsense you have to get up to if you're really serious. Now, most people aren't serious about this, right? But back when I was in college, I bought all of these scientific creationism books and read them because I was trying to make it work. And the more I read, the less it worked. And so we're back to what the physicist we looked at the other day, not Einstein, the more recent, Hawking. We're back to Hawking's thesis that mythology is science done badly. So he's saying, okay, this is bad science. I mean, these are the people, if he had a question and answer after one of his lectures, public lectures, this is the stuff he got, just reams of it. And people telling him, well, the universe is only 6,000 years old. And so all of your science that what do you scientists know? And they come up with increasingly ridiculous theories the more that they have to go. What they don't mention is that this stuff is also the Bible done badly. Not only do they do a bad job of interfacing with the universe around us today, they don't even really read the Bible all that closely. So let's look at Genesis 1. Well, I'll let you. In Genesis 1, on day 1, God created the heaven and the earth, light and darkness. It does sound better with the King James. The earth was without form and void, and darkness upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and evening and morning were the first day. So this is what happens on day one. God creates this stuff. On day two, he creates a firmament dividing the waters. There be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. He called the firmament heaven. So what is the difference between a firmament and the sky? This is really the first place that scientific creationism breaks down. What is a firmament? And how is it different from the sky? What word is firmament built off of?
Firm. Permanent.
The firmament is firm. It's like a shell over the earth, like one of those serving dishes. This was kind of a universal, almost way of seeing the earth in the ancient world, where you've got the flat earth covered by this upside down dish, and it holds everything in. So what happens if you hop in an airplane and start flying around the world? What should happen?
You eventually bump into the heavens.
Right, you should bash into the firmament. So where's the shell? And a lot of these characters will say, oh, well, the shell was washed away during the flood. And after that, there was no firmament. Or they just mistranslated sky. If you read some of these modern translations, a rakak is very much not a sky. That's the Hebrew word. A rakak is a shell type thing that exists over the earth. And so when you wave away the original rakak, that's reading the Bible badly. When you start calling a shell the sky and vice versa. Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. He called the dry land earth. The gathering of waters he called seas. God saw that it was good. And then he said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herbs yielding seed, the fruit tree yielding after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. God saw that it was good, evening and morning, the third day. So we're on day 3. Here we go. We've still got the firmament. Now God has split the earth into, the flat part into earth and waters. Waters are gathered together. And so day 3, and also stuff starting to grow on the earth. Oh, I think we didn't get the rest of it. I don't know. So day 5, we create animals, water animals and winged animals. By the way, skipped 4, day 4. Yeah, that's a real important one. Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. Let them be lights in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. He set them in the heaven, evening and morning, the third day. Where does it say sun and moon? I think it just says great lights, but it's the sun and the moon. All right, so what's the problem with day 4?
Well, day 1 says that he created the day and night and light.
Right.
But
So where's
day 4 says that he made light.
So where has the light been coming from?
Arguably, they'd probably say God himself.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah, they might say that. They also, well, originally the Hebrews made a distinction between daylight and sunlight. So you can see behind me sunlight, right? Clearly streaming down. But what about if it's cloudy? The sunlight is blocked out and yet it's still bright out. So they thought there was kind of ambient lighting. Do any of your dads have like a man cave with track lighting around, so there's no direct lights coming on? It's just from these recesses. And so daylight and sunlight are two different things in the Hebrew universe. Now, will that do for your scientific creationist?
It causes them a big contradiction that they have to try to
Doesn't really
explain.
work, right? So they come up with something like either God was shining or he had the light coming from the sun as though it were daylight, as though the sun were there. And what else must you also have coming from the sun in order to not tear the shit up out of the world when you put the actual sun there?
You're going to need scientifically stuff like the ozone layer, so they don't.
I mean, for the sun itself, what needs to be emanating from the spot where the sun will be?
Oh,
What would happen if you just put the sun next to a planet that's humming along through space?
it's just going to engulf it.
Well, it would, all of a sudden, this planet that's going in a straight line has to adapt to the fact that there's this big gravity well and start going in a circle, and it would tear the place up. It would mess up everything he's done. So in addition to sunlight, you've also had sun gravity. And now after having gravity and light for 4 days, the actual sun is in place. Do you see how ridiculous this stuff gets? Like creating light en route. We're creating gravity from a place that there is no gravity. So in every way that you could measure, the sun would have been there. But because it says the sun's created 4 days later, they have to say, well, that wasn't really the sun. That was God making a pretend sun until he made the real sun. Okay, so finally, day 6, we get the land animals, man and woman. Let's get to the creation of, because this is really important. God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And evening and morning were the 6th day. All right. So great. We've got everybody created. Now let's go to Genesis 2. Let me move this over. I don't think do y'all see that little bar with people in it? I think you just see the screen without that, right?
I don't see any.
Right. The Zoom bar with the.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
You do see it like on mine, or do you see yours?
I see mine. I don't see yours.
Okay, you don't see this moving around. Good. I don't think it records it that way. What I put up here is not exactly what's recorded. Okay. Genesis 2 has its own creation story. What is this? Oh, sorry, this is my boss. I'll be right back. Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, hey, how you doing? Sure. Well, she's going to be here until the 1st of November. So, I mean, as far as, yes, she's moving into a new place, but she couldn't get out of this place before because of her. So we'll be kind of splitting maybe. maybe not that long. Once we get her settled, I won't need to sit down there. I have been. Rachel asked me to come down and help out. Here, because I think it'll come next week. We'll try to move next week. But we'll have the mailbox another month. Sure. Oh, yeah. And what I'll do is go to the mail office and get it to be fast mail. So you get Okay, great. Thank you so much. Well, I thought we were supposed to come up. Yeah, we were going to come. We were going to come over tonight to pick up stuff. We got the house. She's got the house. The house has no power yet. We want to get it clean first. You know how everything. We'll mail it. Right. We're coming back. I think so. Sure. Okay. Thank you so much. That's a big help. You could put Kara Rachel McGee in that way. Same last name. Right. Better safe than sorry. Right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've been really pleased with the Zoom. I've been recording the lectures, posting in case somebody, but that's handy for the future. Right. I record Zoom over Google, but then I'm posting lectures on mute. Problems with it. I think so, yeah. What's the FAS? Oh, yeah. I mailed that. Yeah, I mailed those to Brandy. I like to get those in early. Okay, you're breaking up now. I can't hear you. Okay. A lot of them are takeout only, or they try to do the social distancing thing. I'm not. We don't eat out. Thank you so much. Great. Thank you. You too. Bye. Okay. Sorry about that. So where were we? Oh, we were in Genesis 2, right?
Yeah.
Just starting it.
Let's see if that'll possibly take us there. There we go. That's and there's a bad break between these two. Genesis 2, 1 through 3, still it goes with the stuff from chapter 1. God rested on the seventh. He made the Sabbath day. And then lo and behold, verse 4, we start up again. These are the generations of the heaven and the earth when they were created in the day the Lord God made the earth and heavens. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, nor was there a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. And the Lord God formed the man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So, what's the order of creation in Genesis 2?
Man was created after God rest, or after the seventh day.
Right. First, well, no, this is all starting over. This is a whole new creation story. So, God first made heavens and earth, and then what happened?
Then he made every plant before the earth.
Before he made every plant. So we haven't gotten there yet. They're telling it backward. So before plants, before animals, before rain. But what is there?
There's a mist.
A mist. So number 1, heaven and earth. Number 2, a mist. And number 3,
man created from dust.
And then you plant a garden, which means plants. So I think I've got this somewhere. Heavens and the earth, a mist rose up, forming the man, planting the Garden of Eden. We've got tree of life, tree of knowledge of good and evil. A bunch of rivers. We've got rivers. God warns him not to eat the tree of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. Then Adam is lonely. So he says, it's not good that the man will be alone. I will make a helpmeet for him. So now what do we create?
Animals.
All the animals, every animal. Here's a fly. Here's a tick. Here's an otter. Here's a bear. Only he doesn't say that. He says, here's this thing. And Adam says, otter, bear, tick, fly, that kind of stuff. And, some of the animals, you can't hang out with bears. Dogs, dogs stick around, but they're not a real helpmeet for him. So what happens next?
God just digs in Adam, takes out a rib, and makes Eve.
Takes a rib, makes weave, and there's a Hebrew pun. She is called Isha because he was Ish. And it works in English. Eve was called woman because she was taken from man. Most other languages, this simply doesn't work, but we happen to have the same pun, that the word for woman is derived from the word for man. All right, so how does Genesis 2 compare to Genesis 1? Are they the same?
Not
They
at
do
all.
not match. So before you can harmonize the Bible with science, which is what these, scientific creationists, young earth, whatever you want to call it, which is what they are trying to do, first they have to harmonize Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. Again, they have to read it badly. So when you read Genesis 1, this is what happened, right? When you read Genesis 2, this is what happened. Now, this works in mythology. Does it work in science? No. But this is not science. It's their foundation myth. And so if you read Hesiod, you get the 5 ages of man. And then, if you will, here's another story. And it's the creation of Pandora. 2 very different accounts of early creation, which don't match. Doesn't matter. They're good stories. I've read them both. I want to put them in my book. I've heard them both. Now, just look at this creation of humans. This one in Genesis 1, is there a gap between the creation of man and the creation of woman?
It's never specifically stated.
Well, it kind of is. Let's take a look. God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them, and God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply. If you did not have Genesis 2 and feel the urge to harmonize them, would you imagine that these took place at different times? Is there anything in the text to indicate that?
It's just the way it's worded, how it's saying that he created man in his own image, and then it goes on to say male and female, he created them.
At the same time. I mean, it's fairly obvious that's what they had intended. So can woman be created both at the same time as Adam and then as man, and then have man created first, then everything else, literally everything, and then finally woman comes along? No, it can, if they're not the same woman.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
What do you remember?
Didn't Adam have an original wife?
Yes, and what was her name?
I don't remember, but she's they call her like the mother of all succubuses, or she's
Every
like one of the original
thing
demons.
is blamed on Lilith.
Yeah, Lilith.
Supposedly Adam's first wife, and Adam could not tolerate her. Why?
I don't know that. I only remember that Lilith existed.
Well, this is patriarchy. Why can't patriarchs stand strong? Why would it be that a patriarch couldn't stand a woman?
Because she's trying to do things on her own.
Yes,
like she's trying to go against Adam.
She is equal to Adam, male and female, imago Dei. They're both in the image of God, created at the same time, created equally. And therefore, Adam couldn't stand her, and he got a divorce. And this was a medieval Jewish theory. The Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox, they couldn't come up with that theory because they didn't believe in divorce. But if you have divorce, then you can have Adam and Lilith get a divorce, and then he gets woman. And how is woman defined in Genesis 2? What is her job title?
Kind of the server of Adam, just sort of like I don't fully recall.
Okay, she is going to be a helpmeet for Adam. And like you say, it's her job to keep her man happy. And she's subservient. He's created first. She's created last. He's created for God. She's created for him. So this is the honey, bring me a beer passage. So Genesis 1, Genesis 2. Which one of these do they want to teach in your science class, in your astronomy? And
they typically want to teach you Genesis 1.
This is what they teach when they're teaching you science. Do they teach this when they're teaching social studies?
No, not.
What do they want to teach you when they teach social studies?
They probably teach you Genesis 2.
Right. Why?
I assume because of the story of the Garden of Eden and the taking of.
Also, it is patriarchal, and we are living in a patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
And so this whole thing about men and women being equal, so they skip over that, right, and rush right to Adam and Eve. She sinned first, and she was created last. So Genesis 2 and 3 set up the model for the patriarchal social structure. And so that's what they want to wedge into there. Now, there's something else going on here, which the Hebrew indicates. Genesis 1, the word for God is that top word, Elohim. Elohim. In Genesis 2, verses 4 through chapter 3, he's always called Yahweh Elohim, the Lord God. So that's the name of God. So suddenly the whole story shifts. It's a completely different story with a different name from God. So scholars, religious scholars, biblical scholars called source critics or source criticism, say that probably these are two different stories that the author of Genesis heard, and he just put them both in there, the way that Hesiod put the story of the 5 ages of man, and then the story of the creation of woman, bringing a fire, opening the box of woes. Both great stories. Why not put them both in my book? And so that's where they think why they're so different. Here we go. All right, now, we've any questions about creation and creationism?
Do you think it's possible that the firmament in chapter 1 is referring to the atmosphere?
They don't know for atmosphere, right? The theory of gas comes along a lot later. They believe in wind, but they don't really know this stuff. You will see some, if you look at the word rakak in Hebrew, it's related to other words that also mean firm stuff, like firmament, firm. And so we're exporting our modern scientific understanding of the universe back onto stories from a period where they don't have that. Where am I? Here we go. Okay, so this is is it Chitamacha? Myths of the blah. Yeah, I think it's a Chitamacha story, who are Native Americans who lived in South Louisiana. And they believe that the creator created the earth and the sea, but then he gave the crawfish the task of going down to the bottom of the sea and bringing up dirt. And so the crawfish actually created the land that we walk on. So if we're going to teach scientific creationism in Louisiana, I would like to be crawfish creationism. Now, do we feel the need to come up with scientific explanations for what's going on here? No, it's just a cool story, right? So look at it like that and try to learn. When you look at a crawfish, they actually do bring up silt, right? And put in piles of dirt. And so, that's where they think the land came from. So this is mythic reason, the way that they reason mythically, before philosophy and before before science. All right, anything else? All right, the Bible, or Genesis, is written to understand humanity's oldest question. But it's kind of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. What's the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
42.
I want to say Yeah, 42.
42, right? What's the problem with the answer?
There's no question.
What is the question? So for us to understand Genesis, we have to understand what is the question. So what is humanity's oldest question in
Why are we
Genesis? What's that?
Why are we here? Or what's our purpose?
Okay, we'll do both of those. Anybody else? Usually we have a much bigger list than this.
And there's the question of how did we get here? Do we have a creator?
How do we get here? All right, that's pretty good. Unfortunately, they're all wrong. So I'm an English professor in my other classes. What do I do when I want to find a question? What do I look for? There are a bunch of them right here on this slide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I count correctly.
5 W's.
Well, look at the other end of the sentence.
5 question marks.
Question marks. If you want to find a question, look for the question mark. So beginning with Genesis 1:1, find me some questions. Yell them out when you find them. Are you reading?
No.
Yeah, I meant right now. I'm curious. I've got to know the question.
Are we reading from the Bible right now?
Yes, you're starting in Genesis 1:1 and proceeding forward until you find one of these. And then you will let me know what the question is.
I don't think there are any questions.
Well, not in Genesis 1:1. You have to move forward. Forward, ever forward.
Genesis 2, Genesis 3. Oh, the first one, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden.
And who says that?
God.
I don't think
Oh, wait, no,
so.
it's Adam. Adam. Oh, wait, no, serpent. The guy. I did not read the full.
Very
the full
good.
sentence.
Yes. So read that to me again. I can't get my.
Ye shall not eat of every
But
tree
read
of the garden.
read the sentence before that.
Okay. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto woman, yeah, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden.
Was it yea, yea-e-h?
It was apparently it said like yeah.
Spell it.
I think that exactly.
Okay.
That I think it might be a mistranslation or something.
Okay. So God said, did God really say you can't eat any of this stuff? Now, is this humanity's oldest question?
No.
No, because he's not a human. What kind of question is it though? Because it's a significant question. What's he trying to cause to happen within the woman?
He's trying to get her to eat the fruit.
Right. So we call this temptation. It's a question of getting us to doubt God is the first step in tempting us. All right. So very good. Keep moving. Let's find the next question.
Oh, I found another question.
Yes.
So 3:9, but the Lord God called to man, where are you?
Or as we prefer, where art thou? The King James, I didn't get a chance to mention this, or I didn't take the chance. The King James is the literary translation of the Bible.
Oh,
So when we're looking at the Bible as literature, it's probably, the modern translations are written for readability, not beauty. And also there are like 500 of them. So there's no one translation for everybody to go to. So that's why I still use
New International Version.
Right. But I mean, where are you is fine, but we're going to go with where art thou just because I'm a jerk. So who asked this question?
God asks this one.
So God asks, again, would that make this humanity's oldest question? No, but it's still an important question. You can look at the Bible as our search for God, but you can also arguably look at it as God's search for us. All right, proceed. Great things.
There's another question God asks.
Yeah, keep going after that one. I just noticed we're an hour into it, and we're still in Genesis 3.
And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?"
Right. So all good stuff. You went out and sinned. So, all right, go past this story to the next one. I will give you a clue. In Hebrew, it's Hashomer Aki Anoki.
It is, and the Lord said unto Cain, "Why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen?"
That's good. Still God questions. We're still moving toward the first human question. But that is part of the key to this passage. Why are you angry?
If you do what is right, will you not be accepted?
Yeah, it's still God's question. Keep
And he said, "I know not. Am I my brother's keeper?"
Ah. This is humanity's oldest question. This is the key question of the book of Genesis. And what is the answer if you are spiritual, or if you want to be spiritual?
I'm assuming yes.
Yes, the answer is absolutely, positively yes. If you are not your brother's keeper, you do not have a claim to be. You have the mark of Cain. And so much of our own culture is pushing us not to be our brother and sister's keeper, right? Oh, well, you're poor. Oh, well, you're black. Oh, well, you're from some other country. Oh, well, you're, whatever. And therefore, you do not deserve me to be your keeper. You don't deserve my help. And we have that mark of Cain on our heart, right? That we like to think we are not our brother's keeper. But the first step to becoming spiritual is to start being our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper. And, I know so many people, like I had a friend, he got back from, where was he? Nepal, India. And he was in he went up the mountain into one of these, temples they have there. Glorious, great, wonderful. And I mean, it really is. They have sacred monkeys in that temple. And, I might go to church more if they had monkeys. I don't know. Let's give it a try. I'd like to see monkeys, and doing monkey stuff. And there's this one abbey in England where they have cats that always getting into their, they're doing their morning like Eucharist, and here come the cats. That's kind of cool. They don't let animals in my church. So anyway, going up on the mountain, sitting there, looking at your own navel, that's not for Genesis. The road to spirituality. The road to spirituality is being your brother's keeper. And once you realize that is the theme of Genesis, everything else falls into place. But if you don't know that, then you read all this. I mean, think about all the people who have, where's the rest? Think about all the people who have worked so many hundreds and thousands of hours over the years trying to get Genesis 1 and 2 put into the curriculum of your local high school. Did any of you study this in biology or biology or earth science or something? Well, good. You had a teacher that avoided this stuff. But they've been working really hard to make sure they put this in your science class. And yet they missed the basic message of the whole thing. The most, fundamental part of it. It's like, oh, well, whatever.
Professor,
Yes.
why is being your brother's keeper the first step to being spiritual?
Do you have any theories about that?
Well, I guess it depends on your definition, but I guess you're assuming that in Christianity, being your brother's keeper would be the same thing as loving your neighbor.
Yes. It's what Jesus called, well, he called it the second commandment, right? The first commandment being love God. So if you want to love God first, fine, as long as you love your brother next and sister. If you don't do that, though, do you really love God?
But it could also mean that you're responsible for their actions. So,
well, you're responsible for caring for them. Ooh, I misspelled question. Crap. I hate misspellings. Okay, so let's get down to, am I my brother's keeper? There are questions. All right, so let's move on. We have any more questions, though? Have you ever met somebody that was super spiritual? They waved their hands in the air at church. They were what my grandmother would call pale, pious, and perfunctory. They were very churchy type of people, openly pious, but they would stab you in the back. Is that person spiritual? Is being spiritual about doing this stuff? Like, remember, what was wrong with Cain? Did he fail to offer a sacrifice? He offered the sacrifice. He did the church thing, right? But he had hate in his heart for his brother, and he acted on that hate, and that's the problem, he didn't, that's what God was really looking for, not the formality of the religion, but for love for other people. All right, so moving forward, let's see. So, oh goodness, let's see if that'll blow up. That's not very good. Oh, that's better. Okay, so remember last time we were in Uruk, which is kind of next door to Ur. And so Abram would have followed the path along the, if you go across the desert, you're going to die. So he goes up to Haran and then starts back down, moves into Palestine, what will become someday Israel. spends time in Egypt, comes back. So he does a lot of traveling, but basically he comes from Ur. And there does seem to be something to this because the mythology of Ur has so many overlaps with the stories we find in Genesis. They've got the weeks, they've got the serpent, they've got the tree of life, they've got a flood. And so Abram is married to his wife, Sarah, and they have a problem. If you're going to have a great nation be born of you, and what is that?
You need kids.
You need kids. Kids, they're our future, right? I'm looking at our future. I hope you do better with it than we did with ours. Remember that Chernobyl thing we talked about? How the whole Soviet Union turned itself inside out. They brought in all of the nitrogen, liquid nitrogen in the whole Soviet Union to try to cool this thing so it wouldn't melt and create a China syndrome. In the meantime, my generation was sitting over here. At about that same time, we learned that since 1800, we had thrown all of this carbon dioxide into the air and we were creating climate change. If we didn't act to make things better, there could be dire consequences. And now 30 years, 40 years later, what has my generation done? We took that amount of carbon dioxide that was added to the air since 1800 and we doubled it. So you're welcome. That's the earth we are giving to you. If you aren't smarter than us, everybody after you will be dead. Back to Abram. He and his wife Sarah aren't having any children, so his first suggestion is, I'll make my steward, my chief servant, into my heir. God said no to that. And then Sarah had an idea. And what was that?
She did think to do a servant?
She said, yeah, go in with Hagar, my maidservant, have a baby with her. She's young. I mean, Abraham and Sarah were both old. And Sarah was past childbearing age. And even when she was of childbearing age, she'd never had any kids. So they had a son named Ishmael. Eventually, Abram, by this time I think he's Abraham, and Sarah have a miracle, and they have a son named Isaac. And they all lived happily ever after, right?
No.
Doesn't Ishmael and Isaac kind of resent each other or something like that?
Well, the only interaction we see is them getting together. Was it after Abraham died? And they seem to be kind of cool with each other. Who is it that's actually fighting? Remember, this is a patriarchy.
It'd be the women, the
It's
wives.
the women's fault, right? Yes, of course. This is a man's story, so they like to blame the women. How did it come that the women were not caring for their sister wives, or whatever you want to call them? What's the dynamic between Hagar and Sarah?
I hate
Hagar-
you. Me too.
Hagar was the sort of servant to Sarah. So
Right.
Sarah's trying to be or try to be more or dominating onto Hagar.
Right, but Hagar is not taking it anymore. Why? Why does she think, oh, well, you can't treat me that way now?
Because Abraham's dead.
No, he's still around.
Oh. Is it
She thinks
because
her son should have equal inheritance.
My son, I've had
Oh.
Abraham's son, and therefore that elevates me in status from being your servant to being the woman who can have a baby for Abraham. Remember Anne Boleyn? Now Sarah, she not only resents her former servant trying to lord it over her, but also she eventually has a son, Isaac. And what's she afraid will happen when she and Abraham and Hagar are all dead? What would take place between Ishmael and Isaac?
They create their own nations, don't they?
Well, yes, but what's she afraid of?
Is that they might kill each other, or
Yes, more specifically, she's afraid Ishmael might kill Isaac. He's the older brother. By rights, he should get the double portion of the inheritance, and he might decide he wants all the inheritance. So what is her relatively simple solution to this problem?
isn't that she's the one that pairs Isaac up with Rebecca to have?
Oh, no, we're not there yet.
Oh,
I'm having
He
this
sends
fight with
Hagar
Hagar.
away.
What is my solution to this fight?
yeah.
I think she sends Hagar and Ishmael away into the wilderness.
Yes, to die. Let's let them die in the wilderness. Is she taking care of her sister and her stepson?
No.
No. She's doing a bad job of it. But she's only interested in her son, Isaac. So at some point, Abraham is sitting, he's still Abram at this point. He's sitting outside one day and he sees three strangers walk by. And what's his reaction to seeing strangers coming along? What does he do when he sees the three strangers?
Remember.
He says, y'all need to stay here. He shows them hospitality. This is really important. So does he put them in a concentration camp?
No, he treats them as well-respected guests.
Right. Putting people in concentration camps is what Americans do if they show up from somewhere else. What Abraham does is say to everybody, okay, go kill, I think, a goat and bake some bread because, you know, you can't pop out to the Walmart and pick up a loaf of bread. If you want bread, you bake the bread. If you want to eat goat tonight, you have to go kill a goat. And so he rolls out the red carpet for them. Of course, other people do the work while he chats with the guests. But who do the guests turn out to be?
I believe that it's debated that they were either angels or God himself.
Yeah, why isn't this working? So it's the angel of the Lord and two other angels. Oh, that's not a question. And scholars believe that the angel of the Lord is actually God in human form, so that he doesn't, blast us, interacting with people directly. So this is how they treat the angel of the Lord. But it's also how he treats a random stranger. Remember when Jesus said, when you've done it unto the least of these, my brethren, you've done it unto me. That's hospitality because you might entertain angels unawares. But it's also a belief in the divinity of the person that you meet, that there is something sacred about this person and that you need to treat them well. So is Abram his brother's keeper?
Yes.
Yes, very much so. And the angels do a couple of things while they're there after they tell him who they are. First, they say, you're still going to have a great nation, all this other stuff. And I believe this is where they change his name from Abram to Abraham. But they also say, ooh, those two terrible cities of, did I spell that right? Let's see, I'm hoping that's right. Those two terrible evil cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, we are going to smite them, right? And what does Abraham do? Does he say, yes, they are a bunch of people in Sodom and Gomorrah. I've known they were evil for so long. I'm going to go get a chair and sit up on the hill and watch this, because I'm sure going to enjoy watching you kill those evil doers.
No, Abraham was asking for them to be spared.
Right. And what's his criteria for sparing them? Why would God, if they meet this, if they meet this requirement, then God wouldn't kill them? What was that?
He said, if there were but a few righteous people, would he spare them?
How many?
I think it started off with 50, maybe.
50. And of course, it's not people; it's men, because patriarchy, right? That would mean there were probably, at least several hundred righteous women, if there are 50 righteous men. All right, so does Abram stick with that?
No.
What does he say next?
Is it
I think
30?
he lowered his number to like
I don't
10,
know.
but
What was the next one doing? I thought he went by tens, but he might not have. What's the final count that they need at least this many?
5?
I think it was 10. Tell me if I'm wrong and I'll correct it. But so if they're just 10 righteous men in the city, this being a patriarchy, then God will spare them. And so what does God find there instead?
They're all sinners. They do a
Except
lot of
for
terror. I think it's Lot.
Lot, Abram's, I believe, cousin, or maybe a nephew. Do we have a house? All right. So what do they do that God finds so outrageous that he rains down fire and brimstone from heaven?
I want to say there was a lot of rape. I do believe that was a big part of
They
it.
tried to, but Lot protected the angels and said, no, you can't have them. And the men are, yes, send them out. We want them. And so God tells Lot and his family to leave. Now, when your reverend preaches about this, what is the sin that he thinks is so terrible that God had to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah?
Lust?
Well, yeah, the assault on, the sexual assault, the homosexual assault, that is just a step too far. Do I need to move? Okay. Let me know if I get too loud. I'm getting close to finish. So that's going to be, the theory going forward. But let's do a thought experiment. So you come into Sodom and you go to a bar, and it's a biker bar, a really hetero biker bar. They want to beat you up and kill you and take your stuff. And so you run next door to the gay bar where they protect you. Which bar is God going to smite?
The gay bar.
Oh, are you kidding? What is the thesis of Genesis?
Oh, wait. Sorry. I was thinking about something else.
So tell me the thesis of Genesis.
Is
What
that
is the
if you
thesis question of Genesis?
am I my brother's keeper?
Right.
Just
And
showing love to one another.
the thesis is yes. So who has been their brother's keeper?
It was the gay bar.
It was the gay bar. So who gets smitten, smited?
The bikers.
It's the bikers, right? Even though they were hetero, because they did not show love to the stranger, because they were not their brother's keeper. Maybe if I highlighted it. Can you highlight stuff? Let's make it another. Okay. So anyway, Lot is his brother's keeper, and therefore he is spared. The rest of the city is not, and therefore they are destroyed. Is this a message we really want to hear?
No, but it's a message that is very recurring throughout the Old Testament.
It comes up, I mean, if you read the rest of the book of Genesis, is there anything in it about being gay?
No.
No. Is there anything in it about taking care of your neighbor, your brother, your sister, your nephew, your niece?
A little bit.
A lot of it. That's all it is, right? Over and over, we see this played out. Are you your brother's keeper or are you not? Are you your sister's keeper or are you not? Okay, let's move forward with Esau, Isaac, and Rebekah. They have twins, Esau and Jacob. And are they good at being their brother's keeper?
No, they're
No. Esau was considered the one that's going to get the heritage when
Right.
Isaac died.
and
Isaac
Jacob was just a
favored
heel
Esau,
grabber.
but Rebecca favored Jacob.
Yes. So all these family dynamics. Esau's a manly boy. Jacob is a girly man. Isaac identifies with Esau. Rebecca identifies with Jacob, and they hatch all these plots. Mostly Rebecca and Jacob against Isaac and Esau. Esau is not a plotter. He comes in one day. He's hungry. Jacob says, "Give me your birthright for a bowl of pottage," which is oatmeal. And Esau does. Now, normally, the elder son, if you're two people in the family, two sons in the family, the elder son gets a double portion. So you're divided into thirds, and the eldest son would get 2/3. You've got 3 brothers, you divide the inheritance into 4 parts and give the elder brother half. And so everybody gets something. But the older brother gets half of what the older brother got. Okay, so Jacob snookers him out of that, but in some ways it's a fair trade. Then when Isaac is dying, he's going to give a blessing, which is final blessing as you go out. And he tells Esau, "I would like a little wild game," and so Esau goes hunting. And what is the plot that Rebecca and Jacob hatch?
Steal that blessing.
Steal that blessing, right? And he puts a goat skin on his arm so it feels hairy, because Esau's a manly man.
And Isaac has very poor eyesight at this point.
Jacob spends a lot of time shaving his arms. Have you ever known somebody that shaved their arms? I've seen a few people that did. And he goes in and he steals the father's blessing. And what is the result?
Jacob flees.
Yeah, why? Does he just want to travel some for senior year?
It was specifically because of Esau. Esau, I believe, he was afraid of Esau.
Yes,
now
Esau
that he
has
saw the
had
blessing.
enough. And so he's saying, I'm going to kill that rascal. And he flees. Where's he wind up going? Whose house does he go to? Tent. Maybe it's a tent. All right, Sarah. No, not Sarah. Rebecca has a brother named Laban, who I did not manage to get on my chart there. And Uncle Laban takes in young Jacob, and Rebecca, Jacob, and Laban share some family traits. What most specifically about their character makes them kind of three peas in a pod, if you will. They're all what we call in literature tricksters. So a trickster is somebody who typically is physically weak, and therefore, in order to win, has to resort to trickery, cunning, guile. We will see a trickster in a couple of weeks when we get to Ulysses, Odysseus in the Odyssey. He's a trickster. Well, so is Isaac, but so is Isaac's mother, and so is Uncle Laban. And so they spend a lot of time tricking each other. So how does Laban trick Jacob?
Doesn't he say, like, if he comes to work for him, he can marry his daughter?
Right. If you work for me, I will, I will give you I will give you my daughter in marriage. Now, which daughter does he want?
He wants the younger one. He wants Rachel.
He wants the hot one, right? Rachel, she's pretty. Who's the other one?
I forgot what her name was, but
I think Space Buns. She
had very weak eyesight, if I remember correctly.
Right. And Space Buns. This
Allison
is Leah.
says it's Leah. Yeah.
Right. So Leah and Rachel. He's not into Space Buns, but he's very much into Rachel because he likes the way she looks and likes her personality. But when it comes time to get married, he marries this woman, takes her to his tent, and who does he find beneath all the veils in cloth?
Leah.
Leah.
Leah. Oh my God, Laban pulled a trick on me. See how they're both tricksters? We've already seen how he's a trickster. So yeah, Laban's up. Laban gives as good as he gets. So he's a trickster. He marries him up to Leah, and then he says, "Oh, if you'll labor for me 7 more years, I'll give you my other daughter as well." And so he works for him for 14 years. Now, how does Jacob wind up tricking Laban? Something to do with the flocks. Okay, so Laban says, for your wages, I will give you I think it's a sheep that is motley. So some sheep are black, some are white, but there are sheep that have spots on them. Not that many. I've never seen that many around. But Jacob takes them and breeds them in such a way. Well, in this version, he lays sticks in front of them, and so they produce a lot of motley, multicolored sheep. And so when it gets time for him to leave, he's got a huge flock of these motley sheep. He goes back. He meets Esau, and how's it? Well, something happens the night before he meets Esau. What is that?
Does he get renamed to Israel?
Yeah, that's part of the event. What else happens that night?
He dreams of the
He wrestled
ladder.
an angel.
That was the first time when he was going out. When he's coming back, he sees the ladder, Jacob's ladder. Coming back, what were you saying, Riley?
He wrestled an angel.
Yes, only who is the angel?
It was God, I think.
Right. He wrestled with God and was not overcome. So this is a strong-willed person, right? If you can wrestle God all night long and God can't beat you, respect to Jacob, who is now Israel. And all of the children of Jacob are going to be the nation of Israel. And so he's the first of the patriarchs who is only the father of Israel. Now, what happens when he meets Esau? Do they kill each other?
Esau
They
embraces
embrace
him.
Yeah, he's glad to see his brother. So in some ways, Esau is a better man than Jacob. He actually exemplifies more of what we see as the necessary thing of loving your brother. He actually does, despite the fact that Jacob didn't give him any reason to. But they're older now, right? Okay, so we move on to a next generation. And Jacob, he gets busy. He has lots of kids. How many sons does he have? Because, again, this is patriarchy.
He had like 12, didn't he?
Yeah, 12 sons.
And his favorite was Joseph.
What's that?
Wasn't his favorite Joseph?
Yes, we will get to that. He always favors the younger. I guess we get to that now. So he was the younger brother. He thought it was unfair that just because Esau was older, he should get double everything he got. So in all of his life, he kind of overturns the favor toward the elder sons. And why does he favor Joseph and then Benjamin? Why are those his favorites?
They were the youngest guys.
Yeah. And also, who's their mother?
It's Rachel.
Right. His favorite wife. God, it says, kind of rewards Leah, because she's the one he looks down on. She has lots of babies and quickly. And then his, the maidservants, they have babies. But Rachel never, she can't get pregnant, favorite wife, but can't get pregnant. Finally, she has the two sons who are youngest than the other brothers, Joseph and Benjamin. And these are the apples of his eye, especially Joseph. He gives him the special coat of many colors. Hold on, I got to go find my water. Okay, he makes Joseph the special coat that none of the other brothers have one like it. And even to make matters worse, Joseph starts having dreams. And this is where we get allegory coming into Genesis. What are his dreams?
He reigned superior.
Yes.
There was one where they were all having these stalks
Right.
And Joseph's stalk was standing upright while the other brothers, they were going down.
Bowing down to him. And it was an allegory. You get the literal level, and then the symbolic level is your stalks are bowing down to my stalks, therefore you will bow down to me. And then he has the sun, the moon, and 11 stars all bowing down to his. And in that one, even Jacob gets pissed off, because who is the sun in this allegory? S-U-N.
It's Joseph and not
No,
Jacob.
the sun is Jacob.
Oh.
S-U-N, like the sun and the moon is his mother, and they're all bowing down to him. Oh, you're so great. And he said, no. That's taken a little too far, dude. So Joseph is sent by Jacob to check on the brothers who are out with the crops. What did the brothers decide to do?
They take the most reasonable path, put him into a pit, and sell him to Egyptian slavers.
Right. They want to kill him, first of all. And I said, well, you don't want his blood on our hands. Then second of all, let's throw him in a pit. If he starves, that's his problem. And then finally, they see this caravan coming by, because in mythology, there's always a caravan when you need one. And a shepherd. They're always shepherd. But they're the shepherd, so they don't need a shepherd. They need a caravan. And they say, we'll sell him for, I think, 30 pieces of silver. Am I right about that? Or is that Judah's? And off to Egypt he goes. And they think, well, we've gotten rid of this brat. Now, question, are they their brother's keeper? No. So this is the theme of Genesis. Am I my brother's keeper? And they are not. And it creates huge problems back home, because how does Jacob or Israel react when he finds out, when they tell him his son is dead?
Yes.
He was upset.
Oh, yeah, he never got
depressed.
Over it. He was, depressed, in deep, horrible grief. Meanwhile, Joseph, he's young, he's good looking, he's smart, he's personable. Wherever he lands, he starts to rise. So he goes to Egypt. He sold this as a servant. Who buys him?
It wasn't Pharaoh, because that was Moses.
It was one of Pharaoh's guys. He was a dude named Potiphar. But Joseph might have been just a little too good looking. Why?
His wife was like, hey, sleep with me.
Right. Potiphar's wife said, ooh, that new pool boy, he's quite handsome. And she makes a pass at him. And how does Joseph respond?
Whoa, you're stepping into territory, dude.
Right. He runs away, right? And so she falsely accuses him of trying to assault her, wherein he is put in jail. And what starts to happen to him in jail? He
was made sort of a warden.
He's a trustee. Yeah, they call these trustees maybe a capo. Right. Because once again, young, handsome, nice personality, kind of stands out in jail. And he starts to interpret some dreams. Who's having dreams?
Isn't it the Pharaoh? That's the one that's
not the
having
Pharaoh
dream?
yet. These are people in the jail. One is Pharaoh's cupbearer. The other is Pharaoh's baker. Now, obviously, what would be Pharaoh's reason for putting these two people in jail?
They did not do their jobs.
Well, what's the most important thing that the cupbearer and the baker? Remember Gilgamesh not eating the tree of knowledge?
They gotta make sure it's not poison.
Right. He's worried they're poisoning him. And one of them is poisoning me. Maybe not. But one of them will survive and the other one will not. Is it the cupbearer that gets freed and the baker that dies? I think maybe so. And Joseph said, remember me when you come out, and he forgets him promptly until what happens? What happens to Pharaoh that puts him in need of the services of somebody like Joseph?
It's these nightmares about
Cannibal cows.
Mm-hmm.
What's with the cannibal cows?
It was a sign that there was going to be years of bad things going on.
Right.
Famine.
Seven fat cows come out of the Nile, and 7 skinny cows come out, eat the fat cows, and are no bigger when they finish. So
7 years. Yeah, 7 years of abundance, and then followed by 7 years of famine.
Right. And so he needs to put plenty of grain away for the years of famine. And Pharaoh is so impressed with Joseph that what does he do?
Puts him in charge of Egypt.
Puts him in charge. He's the Secretary of Agriculture, the Minister of Agriculture, or whatever they called it at the time, which in our cabinet is one of those that you don't, I mean, does anybody know who that is? I don't. If you live on a farm, you might. I know the Secretary of State is Madeleine Albright, or she was when Bill Clinton was president. Who's the current one? I don't know. They change so often nowadays. It's hard to keep up. But literally, he is the second most powerful man in Egypt and the second most important man. The most important if you want to keep eating. Imagine if we'd had a rational response to Corona and the president had put one really good person in charge of the whole Corona response for the whole country. So that's what happens in Egypt. And so we fast forward to the 7 years of famine. What's going on up in Palestine back home with Israel and Jacob and the boys?
Or they're also experiencing famine.
Right. It's a
They're
general
also suffering
famine.
from it. So
And-
they're going, they go to Egypt to try and get food.
Right. Got to buy some grain. And so all of a sudden, here's Joseph sitting up on his throne with all of his fancy Egyptian garb. And he looks out, and who does he see?
He sees his
Saw
10
his
brothers.
brothers.
10 brothers. Now he can get even, right? Now is a time he can square all his, I've been thinking about this for at least 20 years. I don't know how long he was there in Egypt before this happened, but he had to be a slave, then he had to be in jail, then he had to have at least 7 years of feast, and then this is into the famine. So yeah, it's been at least 10 or 15, maybe 20. Now, why don't the brothers recognize him?
I thought it was dead. Like, they sold him
Dead
off.
slave. Also, what would he have looked like when they sold him into slavery? How old was he?
I don't remember the age.
They don't give it exactly, but he's a boy, right?
No,
And what's happened to him now in 10 or 15 years?
he's grown up a lot.
And he's got the big beard. He doesn't even look like himself. I mean, I've had friends who look like they did in, school, but I've got some that I wouldn't recognize. Like, I was looking up one guy the other day, and is that him? Or am I looking up the wrong person? Because he really doesn't look like himself. The one, not the way I remembered him. So Joseph's changed a lot. And also they're 10 people. He can tell they're speaking Hebrew. So what does he do to get even with them? Well, what diabolical plot does he hatch to kill them all?
These guys are These guys are spies.
Right.
I don't even trust them.
You're spies. I can't trust you. And they say, no, this is our story. And what's he say will have to happen if he's going to believe they're really telling the truth?
Send your youngest brother.
Right. You're going to have to bring Benjamin down. Now, he's setting up a test, right? We'll talk about the test in a minute. But obviously, this is totally irrational, but we're used to leaders being totally irrational, right? Are there no boys back home that they could send with the other 10 to pretend to be a son? If these were Russian spies, they'd have a 11th son there within the hour. So they go back home. They tell Jacob, we can't go back if you don't send Benjamin. And he says, oh, but the last time I sent my youngest, one of my young sons out, he died. And if this happens again, it'll kill me. So was it Judah that offers to take his place? He's going to be a surety for him.
Is it Reuben?
Was it Reuben? Judah. Yeah, I thought it was Judah. Judah. So anyway, they go back down. Now, last time, Joseph had put their money back into their bags of grain. So they were really confused when they got home, and they not only had the food, but they had the money. This time, he hosts them and fets them, and they have the party and all that. And again, he puts the money back in, but what does he put in Benjamin's bag?
Is it the coat?
It's his cup, his silver cup.
Oh, his cup.
Pharaoh drinks out of a golden cup, and he being the number 2 guy, he only gets silver. So he sends guards out, and they say, somebody stole my cup. And they look through all the bags, and whose bag of grain is it in?
It's Benjamin.
Benjamin's. And what is the judgment that Joseph pronounces upon Benjamin?
Thief.
Does he say he's going to kill him? It's the thing that happened to him. He said, I will make him my servant. I will make him my slave. He can stay here and work for me as a punishment. Now, what's he trying to do? What's the logic behind all of this?
It's a test for his brothers to see if they'll come to his defense, unlike what they did with Joseph.
Right. He wants to see if they've grown up. I mean, they've had years they could hate Benjamin as much as they hated him. So what's he trying to find out about his brothers? What is the thesis of Genesis?
Are they? Will they be their brother's keeper?
Will they be their brother's keeper? How would this have worked out if they'd said, oh, great, take him. We'll be out of here. We didn't like this kid anyway. That would be bad news for the 10, right? But they've learned something. It's not just that Joseph is his brother's keeper. It's that they've all learned this lesson. They've watched their father suffer. They've grown up. They see their own kids, and they think, what would it be like to lose one of my kids the way we did with Joseph? So let's go to the end of Genesis. We'll be through by. Oh, shit, it's time to go. Oh, crap, we've got 3 minutes. Crap. I think it's 44. If you take this also from me, mischief will befall him. Ye shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Now therefore, when I come to thy servant, my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up with the lad's life, it shall come to pass, when he seeth that the lad is not with us, that he will die. And thy servants shall bring down the gray hairs of thy servant, our father, with sorrow to the grave. For thy servant became a surety for the lad unto my father, saying, if I bring him not unto thee, then I bear the blame to my father forever. Now therefore I pray thee, let thy servant abide instead of the lad, a bondman to my Lord, and the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go to my father, and the lad be not with me, lest peradventure I see the evil that come on my father? Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. There stood no man with him while Joseph made himself known unto his brothers. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians in the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said unto his brothers, I am Joseph, doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. So here we see the climax to the book of Genesis. And what do we find out? We are our brother's keeper. And so he brings them there to live. They're troubled. They think he's going to kill them. Why wouldn't he? And then when Joseph dies, Jacob dies, they think again he keeps saying, no, I'm not going to kill you. No, I'm not going to kill you. I forgive you. You're my brothers. I'm going to take care of you. You see how this is the whole book of Genesis. This is from Cain and Abel to the end of the book. It's all about this. Although there is one final trick I'll give you before we go. Jacob has his final interview with all of his sons and grandsons, and Joseph brings Ephraim and Manasseh, his two sons, to be blessed. Ephraim is the elder, so he places them by Jacob's right hand, and Manasseh is the younger. And what does the old man do? He switches his hands. So here he is, old, blind, dying, and he has one more trick to pull off. And Joseph was wroth with his father. It's like, all this trouble we've been going through for all of these chapters, and you're still doing it. You gotta like a guy that, he never learns, but everybody else seems to learn. We are our brother's keeper. If you want to be spiritual, don't go up on the mountain and look at the monkeys at the sacred. Start helping the people around you, even the people you don't like, even the people you're angry at. That's a lesson we could still learn today, right? All right, any questions? I know we're out of time. All right, well, you can hop off. Let me stop recording, and then if you have any general questions. All right, let me stop recording, and if you have